Hey guys, we are reading the book of Haggai this morning, and wow, is it so good. I loved the book of Haggai this morning. This is the joy of reading the Bible in chronological order, is that you can read these books right where they are. So you know the exact history that's going on here in Haggai when this prophet comes into Jerusalem when they're rebuilding the temple, versus like if you were reading it, from cover to cover, sometimes those things are missed because you're like, where are we in the history of Israel? So this is the cool thing about reading it chronologically. I love reading it chronologically. My favorite is chronologically, but when they mix that with the New Testament. So it's like some of the Old Testament, some of the New Testament, and then usually they put a psalm or proverb in it. That's probably my favorite way to go through it. But chronological is definitely where it's at. So what we're going to dive into here is God is addressing all the workers and their belongings kept coming up short. So like all their things that they were doing, all the crops they were trying to pull and the work that they're doing is just like not flourishing. And when you toil or gather or strive on your own, this is such a beautiful picture of it, because you'll always come up short. Like apart from God, we always come up short. We will have this hunger, this thirst that just won't ever be filled because we're not living our full potential, our full purpose. Because our purpose, when God designed human, it was to be in community with him, right? Adam, he designed the garden and he walked with Adam in that garden. It was meant to be in with him, alongside him. And so when we are walking our own way, it will just continually feel like we're coming up short. So seek the Lord and his direction in all his ways, and he's then with you in his will. He has to stay in his will. And so he's inviting you into that space for you to live your full purpose and exactly who you are. So my words to people who maybe say, well, I don't want to ask God about that because I don't really want his answer because I really like what I'm doing. The problem is you're only living half your potential. Like you're only living half your potential. Like that's not how we should want to do it. Like I'm going to get to that later. So put a pin in that one. Put a pin into that one. And the other thing in 9 and 10 here is if you're feeling stuck, seek the Lord to discern if it's warfare and it's just like hard, you got to push through, or if it's a lack of obedience. Because God told them to go here and to build, and because some people said to stop, they did. Versus saying, well, God's bigger, God's more powerful, and we'll actually see that in a different prophet when we read about him, that he's rebuilding the wall, which I think is later. I don't think we covered this prophet yet. I think is later on the Jewish timeline here. And he's just like, I don't care, I'm doing this anyways, because this is what the Lord said, and I'm going to stay steadfast in it. And so instead of pushing through, they were like, oh, well, it's hard, we'll just stop and we're going to build our house and get our stuff. And they were making these sacrifices, and God addresses that a little bit later. They're making these sacrifices. At first, they're like, yes, we're here, we're going to sacrifice. And then it turned into, I want to sacrifice to get more. So I'm going to give God these things to get more abundance. And he's like, no. It's your heart being steadfast in obedience to me, walking in my way. So asking the Lord, guys, the more things I have handed over to God, the more he's made it abundant and better, and 1,000, I've run 1,000 times faster. Everyone's always like, Anna, how do you do this many things? Because it's in God's will. I'm not running my own life, because I'm not saying, oh, I think I want to write a book. Oh, I think I want to host a concert. Oh, I think I want to start a school. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm just submissively in prayer asking the Lord what he desires. And when an option comes into the picture, or someone asks me to do something like the speaking event I have this weekend, when someone asks me to do that, I don't just say yes. Oh, that sounds really good. I like the idea of public speaking. I don't do that. No, I bring it before the Lord. I'm like, Lord, do you want me to do this? Because otherwise it'll be a bunch of effort that I put in and it'll come up short. But if it's you who wants me to do it, then I know there's a fire that goes behind me, that goes with me in this, because you're going to be with me. Okay. So I think that's really important. And actually, the verse of the day on the Bible app, which some people's are different, but is Romans 12:2, which says this: do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God. So testing it, asking the Lord, testing it against sound judgment, right? Against your husband. If your husband's against what you're saying, it's not from God, because God will always make you aligned with your spouse. So there's ways to discern God's voice. I talk about it in my book, and I'm happy if you're interested in that, I'm happy to explain more of that. But to discern God's voice so you can be in his will, testing, so you may discern the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect, because his will is good, acceptable, and perfect. Not our will, not our thoughts, not the way we think what we should be doing next. This is why I pray every single year about my kids' school. I don't just sign them up. Every single decision, even down to our vacations, I pray about. And I seek the Lord. Does he want to bless my steps in this? Is this the way he wants me to go? Or does he have a better option? I bring it all to him. And he makes it good. He makes it 10 times better, more than I can do. Okay, verse 12 here. I got to move on here. Verse 12, we see that the people humbled themselves. So when they were addressed and this was brought to their attention, the people humbled themselves and they listened and obeyed. They reprioritized their schedules. They're like, okay, this is truth. So you might be hearing this. This might be you today, where you're hearing this and being like, ooh, Anna, that's me. I like planning. I like the things I'm doing. I sometimes don't bring that to God because I really don't want him to convict me or change it, because I want to be doing what I'm doing. So that might be you. And this is your moment to turn, because all of us are called to do this. So this might be your moment to turn and reprioritize and say, okay, if God is always good, if his ways are always perfect, and humans I know are flawed, including myself, that means I need to put them all before him. And I need to trust and obey, even if I don't see the whole picture, because that's not what trusting is, when we see the whole picture. Even if we don't see the whole picture, because I know he's a good God. So they reprioritized. Change cannot happen in a state of pride, okay? That a humble heart takes correction. A humble heart starts with fearing God most. That's having a humble heart. Pride is, yeah, but I want what I want, and I'm keeping it. Okay, that's pride in our heart, guys, which I know isn't fun to hear, but it is. The bottom line, that's what it comes down to. And then also in Haggai 1, we also see it shows us a life lived our way versus a lifestyle of obedience. That's what all of Haggai 1 is displaying here, that when we do things in God's order, it's perfect. So sometimes he has us do things and you're like, well, wait, I wanted to do that. And he's like, no, I want you to do this. And you do it. And then that thing you wanted to do actually comes back around, but it's actually the perfect order. Like you needed to do these other things first, but you didn't see it, because we only see what's in front of us, guys. We are one-dimensional. We can only see what's in front of us, the people around us only. God sees all the people, all time, all the space, all your future, your past. He sees it all, and he knows how to rightly order it. So trust him with it. Like we can't do that. Lastly, in 1 here, you see this blessing in obedience. I love that once they obey, they start flourishing, because that's what it looks like. When we are living in God's full will, in total alignment with him, it flourishes. Abundance pours out. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. So chapter 2, when we walk in God's will, he continually strengthens our hands. So when we are in that will, we not only get this much and abundance in what we have, but also we get God behind us. So that means endless strength, endless knowledge, and endless wisdom. That means he provides for all the things. Like, I don't know what Reclaim's going to look like. I didn't know what the first Reclaim was going to look like, okay? But he kept providing all the things. I don't know what this one looks like. I still don't know it. And it's a new type of faith, because it's not like, oh, he's just showing me all the things like he did for the first. No, he did that one so he could strengthen my hand to say, now see how I did that? I'm doing it again. So trust me, even if you can't see. So I have no idea what that looks like, but I know he said the date, I know he said the location, and I know what time he told me to be there. And he said to go gather people, invite, send that out, because you know I'm going to show up. And so I can walk in that faith, because I know he's going to be behind it, that he's going to provide all the things. Just like Abraham, right? Abraham, God said, sacrifice your son. He didn't understand what God was doing, but he's like, well, I know God's good, and I know he can do anything. And I know all he asks of me is to obey. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to walk to this mountain where I sacrifice the time he told me to do it. And I'm not going to bring anything else, because that's what he said. And I'm going to trust he's going to either provide or he's going to raise my son from the dead because I know he's good. So I'm going to trust this. And he went and God provided, right? He just showed up. He just showed up. That's how good God is. It's amazing. It's amazing. And the other thing too, in verse 6, 7, what cool imagery we get here. It says that, and I will shake all the heavens and earth. I will shake all the nations and they will fill the house. You almost could see how that's like the verbiage that you could use for when King David was gathering for the temple. It's almost like God was like shaking it out of the nations. He's like, all right, you guys have all gathered. Even though you're not for me, I've allowed you to have abundance because it was for Israel. So I'm going to shake that tree now and let all the apples fall right where I want them to fall. And he did. They all came in like ships of goods all came in, and then Solomon reigned and more just kept pouring in because God was just shaking that earth. All belongs to the Lord. We can't underestimate him. And then verse 9, when God tears down, what I want to point out here is it says that he tore down the temple and what he's building is going to be even better. And guys, this is something we can take for ourselves, that when God tears down, he builds up something greater every time. That something greater every time will happen. So when we let ourselves die to ourselves, he raises something greater. That you will never, ever, ever be at a loss when you hand things over to God, when you give God your yes. When you give him your yes, it might be hard to do. You might have to pry your fingers open. I've had a few of those where he really had to pry my fingers open. I mean, baby number 7 is a great example of that. We were done, done. I said no more. We were preventing in every single way possible. God chose to override it. And I'm so thankful that he didn't allow this one area of stubbornness to ruin the glory he had for me, to ruin that, to take that from me. Instead, he forced it anyway. He's like, well, Anna, I'm sorry. I got to pull the God card because you just simply will not. You're just so hard in this area because I have more for you and you're going to love it. You just can't see it right now. And so what I gave up, what I had to finally open my hands to, what he gave back was even better. It is never at our loss. Never at our loss. We get more every single time. So whatever you are holding on to, know if you finally open your hands to it, you won't be at a loss. You're not actually losing something. You're gaining in abundance. And that's what we see here. That's what we see here in verse 9. Okay, the other thing in verse 10 through 13, Haggai's message here is that holiness. It says, he goes through this analogy, which is kind of hard for us because we're not in that time, but he's going through of like holiness isn't contagious. So kind of like your parents' salvation isn't your salvation. It's not contagious. You don't just get it. You actually have to follow God. But sin, on the other hand, sin is contagious. Sin does spread, right? You ever have those friends who like their bad habits rub off on you when you're with them? Where like you're really good at XYZ, but when you're with them, you just start talking dirty, or you just start cussing, or you just start laughing or gossiping. You just start gossiping. And it's like, no, I have that under control. And then when I'm with them, they gossip, I gossip, and I fall into this bad spot because sin spreads. So holiness doesn't. That's something you have to purposefully go and do. That's intentional. Okay. And that's not contagious. You don't get it because someone else is around you praying. That's not why you get it. But sin does. Sin spreads. It's like this dirt, this dust that just spreads so fast and easily. You just blow it around. It's horrible. It's horrible. So it's important to recognize who you're hanging out with because bad habits rub off. Verse 19, God's clear that he was the one who was holding back the blessings, that it was not the weather, it wasn't Mother Nature who's not participating. It was strictly him because he wanted to grab their attention. And that once their hearts moved into obedience, that blessing was now on the way. He's like, okay, now that you're doing it. So I want you to know I was the one who was holding it. And now that you're walking in obedience, now it's going to come. Now those floodgates are going to open. And I love that. I've seen that throughout my whole life, that as I've given God more and he's entrusted me with more and I've kept giving. And there's been these years where like I said, they're the finger prying open type faith that he's having to do and work with me on. And it's a hard yes, but I say yes. And in that, he's opened more and more doors of just like pouring out blessing. I love it. And then verse 23, This is so beautiful. So Zerubbabel is chosen as a signet ring, God says here. He says, I have chosen you. How amazing is that? I mean, guys, every single one of you who claim the name of Jesus, he has chosen you. Like, do you realize he has chosen you? The God of the universe chose you. That's huge, right? And here with Zerubbabel, he says, I choose you to be my signet ring. Signet rings for king, it shows their identity, who they belong to, and it was their authority. It was their authority. So like people would want to get that signet ring and they could go out because that showed their authority came from the king. That was his authority. When he sealed, remember Daniel in the cave and he sealed it with his signet ring saying no one can open it because the king said this. That's his authority. And God is claiming Zerubbabel to be his authority. Isn't that incredible? Because of his faithfulness, because he was walking so diligently to get this job done, God rose him to a higher space and made him his signet ring. And guys, get this. He's from the line of David. He's from the line of David. He is in both of Jesus's genealogies. We see, I think that's Matthew 1 and Luke 3, I think are the two genealogies of Jesus. He's in both of those genealogies. He is a direct line for Jesus. So not just like a cousin or late relative, like direct line of Jesus. God here is restoring the Davidical line, or the Davidical, I think the Davidical line. You know what I'm saying? The line of David. He is restoring it right now. He's like, okay, I had to remove that because you guys, we need to fix some things here. Like we need to clean house is what God was doing there. He's like, we need to get you back on track. And now we're back on track and I am putting David right back on top. His line. Now he's not going to be king. He's going to be the governor, the ruler of Israel because King Darius stays, but he's the ruler over Jerusalem. He becomes that authority and later fulfilled in Jesus Christ, the ultimate signet ring, right? Like he gets that to call his great forever long great grandson. Isn't that so cool? All right. That was Haggai today and we'll see you guys tomorrow.